Now, I don't understand why some parents act so surprised when their kids go no contact, knowing damn well you treated that kid like a servant more than you treated them like a child. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some amazing parents out there. But then there's a select group of parents that traumatize their kids, that never allowed their kids to speak, never created a safe space. And to be honest, you're one of the reasons why your child deals with so many different issues like anxiety because you stressed that kid out. That kid never was allowed to be a kid because you forced them to grow up fast. Now, a lot of parents are going to say, I was young, I tried my best, I did everything I could. That still doesn't mean that you ever had the conversation where you apologize for all the wrongs that you did to your child. If you, as a grown adult, 40, 50, 60 years old, still can't self reflect and listen to your child vent about the things that they went through, and you're just going to dismiss their feelings, that's why they don't want to talk to your ass no more. I understand this might make some of you mad, but a lot of these kids don't ask to be here. You sat up there and had that child. You sat up there and brought that child into this world. Now, if you did it in an irresponsible way and or you had a child before you was ready, are you going to put that onto the kid? Or are you going to take responsibility for your actions? At the end of the day, a lot of kids would love to love their parents and have that relationship. But a lot of adults act like fucking kids.
A lot of parents who have had their children go no contact on them painted as, oh, I don't know why my child just doesn't talk to me anymore. Let me tell you something. No child chooses to not have their parent in their life for absolutely no reason. And if your child is not speaking to you, it's probably because you were a pretty abusive, tough, or something kind of a parent who loved their child unconditionally. Hey, mom and dad, I need to talk to you. I'm gay. And then you turn your child away because they've shamed you or they've disappointed you. Or versus the parent who, hey, mom and dad, I'm gay. I don't give a damn about that. I love you regardless. I'm here for you. When you come home, you safe here. When you go out into the world is already going to put a certain level of things on you because you are gay. So when you come home, the home you come home to is safe. That's the parent that should be asking for the award for Parent of the Year. Not awards are for the parents who go out of their way to make their child feel loved and accepted and safe and seen. The awards go to the parents who are able to apologize when we're wrong. The awards belong to the parents who are able to be as much a part of the healing for their child as they were for the harming of their child.
Many queer Gen Z individuals choose to go no contact with their parents due to experiences of rejection, lack of acceptance, or ongoing conflict related to their sexual orientation or gender identity. This decision often stems from a need to protect their mental and emotional well being, especially when parental behaviors are invalidating, discriminatory, or harmful. Additionally, some queer Gen Z individuals may seek to create chosen families that provide the support and affirmation that their biological families do not. Granted, while most queer people move miles away from family once they become adults, whether it's to another state, city, or even country, I wanted to bring this conversation to the forefront because I barely see anyone talking about this from a queer perspective. But let's unpack this and talk more about it. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy Quinn. I'm back at it again with another video. As you guys can see by the title, we're talking about why queer Gen Z and millennials go no contact with their parents. And before we get into this topic, y'all, I just got the shower. So if y'all see a little redness in my eyes, please try to ignore it. I was washing my hair and the shampoo got on my eyes ghetto. But yeah, I'm also posting 2 videos today. So I'm going to be wearing the same thing. I don't feel like changing shirts. So whatever, we're just going to, keep going. But anyway, I wanted to bring this conversation to the forefront because like I said in the beginning of the video, people talk about going no contact. People talk about Gen Z, millennials all the time. But I don't know. I feel like I don't really see anybody talking about queer stuff pertaining to Gen Z and millennials. Like, and that's just no shade. But I was like, you know what? Let me talk about this. And also, another person who motivated me to do this video was one of my supporters. He DM'd me 4 months ago asking, could I make a video about this? I had an exchange back and forth, but I just never got to it. He reminded me 2 days ago to go, like, hey, are you still going to do it? So, yeah. Shout out to you watching this video, but I've jotted down a couple of notes that I just kind of want to make sure I don't forget as I'm talking through this video. So first of all, when it comes to, us Gen Z millennials, going no contact with their parents. This is something that I had to kind of step out of my element with and just kind of like step in the shoes of everybody else. I feel like I'm not really going to be able to do that, and the reason why I say that is because I have a great relationship with my mom. My dad, we can kind of get into him, but I'm gonna start with my mom first. So my relationship with my parents, my mom, she's always been like my biggest supporter with everything that I do. With the whole coming out process, she would ask me when I was younger. She started asking, was I gay in middle school years? Like as I started to get older and I was starting to find myself, she was starting to take notice of my mannerisms and the way that I carried myself and who I hung around with. I think the first time she mentioned was she knew I was gay when she would come to my football games. Yes, I played football when I was younger, but I was only doing it because I was trying to impress my uncle at the time. My uncle, it's like he was like living his life through us because like he never got a chance to make it to the NFL. So he wanted one of his nephews to at least make it to the NFL. So I never forget I was playing mainly recreational football. It never was anything where I played in school. But I'll never forget my mom, she was out there watching me play and stuff. And we got in the car and was going home. And she was like, I got a question. I was like, yes, ma'am. She was like, do you like playing football? And I was like, no. And she was like, why? I said, I mean, I really don't want to do it. I said, I'm only doing it because of Uncle Peanut. That's my uncle, y'all. So she was like, well, that's good. That's your last game. You ain't going back. But I'm like, no, like he gonna get mad. She was like, F him. Like, if you don't, I'm never gonna make y'all do stuff that y'all don't want to do. Like, and she called my uncle cussing him out or whatever. But that just that moment there, it made me love her even more because she knew I did not like football. Like I did not like it at all. It just I didn't I had the physique for it since I was younger, but I just never had any like passion for it, right? And of course, as I was starting to get older, she would keep asking me or whatever, like, randomly and stuff. And then one day I got off the bus, so she asked me, and I was like, yeah. And ever since then, she's been very accepting of me, and she embraces me to her friends and her coworkers, and she's like my number one supporter when it comes to everything about me. Like she loves everything about me, and not even just my mom, but my family, like my siblings, even my brothers. Like they're like 10 toes when it comes to me. So yeah, now that's my relationship with my mom. My dad, now with him, I'm not going to label him as a deadbeat. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is that we didn't have a very close relationship growing up. Now, he was around. I know who he is, of course. He'll pick me up here and there. He'll buy me things here and there. But I don't know. I guess he felt like being that he would buy me things, that was like all he needed to do as a father. But like as far as like him teaching me how to drive or like teaching me how to be a man, I kind of had to learn that on my own. But what I will say is that this may sound crazy, but when I was getting older, my mama, she always been like open with me about everything. So make a long story short, as I started to get older, my mom kind of let me know that the situation with her and my dad, like how she became pregnant with me and how he wanted to basically pay to, get rid of me. But she told me that in like high school years when I was getting older or whatever. I didn't really feel a way about that until I was starting to get older. Not well, I never felt a way about it, honestly. But when I was starting to get older, y'all, I don't know. I just didn't really have any I no longer had resentment towards my dad. Like at some point I did, but like it was never to a point where I was just like really angry at him because I look at it like this. He clearly didn't want me and you proceeded to have me. So it's really not his place to help raise me. I mean, eventually he ended up doing it anyway because he couldn't deny me. We look just a damn like. But yeah, that's my relationship with my dad. I think I'm not really going to say too much because I just don't want to say too much up here. Now, my dad, he also accepted me too. I came out to him as well. He was kind of another person that kind of already knew that I went that way, just based off of how I act and how like flamboyant I was at a young age. So he wasn't really surprised. He was just kind of like giving me advice, like, being that you're out now, living it, embrace it. And he was just telling me how he loved me and stuff. And we still have a good relationship to this day. We don't talk as much, but whenever I see him, whenever we run into each other, it's always love. So shout out to you, Dad. But yeah, so that's my relationship with my parents. But I know there are a lot of queer people who don't have relationships at all with their parents. So I can't really relate when it comes to stuff like this, but I just feel like this is a really great conversation to have. And another thing that really like I started to take notice of, y'all, I would take notice like I was trying to figure out why all of my gay cousins and like my lesbian cousins, why they always stay far away. Like whenever we had Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever the case may be, They were the only ones that would have to travel to come to the family events. And I never forget, I think I was in 11th grade. I asked my mom, I said, Mama, like, why every time when it's time for us to do stuff or whatever as a family, whether it's family reunions or holidays and stuff, why, like, such and such, which were my lesbian and gay cousins, why would they always have to travel to come see you? Like, why they don't stay in the same city as us? And she was like, because they want to go where they are accepted at. And at the time, me knowing that I was already gay, I couldn't really say anything. But now that I'm older, I see why a lot of gay people who lesbian, whatever the case may be, they move far away from their families just so they can get freedom and they can find their families, or maybe they didn't feel welcome or accepted, within their immediate family. So yeah. But according to Psychology Today, I kind of wanted to read a piece from this article because it stood out to me. So the headline is New Study Finds Half of LGBTQ plus are estranged. I hope I'm saying that word right. Are estranged from family. So it said nearly half of LGBTQ plus young adults are estranged from at least one family member. LGBT, I'm gonna just say queer. Queer adults are twice as likely as non-queer adults to say they are not to say they're not close to immediate family members. When trying to sustain a family myth or identity, relatives often cast out those who are different. As you guys can see, a lot of queer people, they have their reasons as to why they no longer deal with their parents or just their immediate family. And it's very unfortunate. Now, another reference that I wanted to talk about is Pose. Now, when you watch that show, it was on Netflix. It unfortunately got canceled. It was really just showcasing a lot of uh, things that queer people had to go through, like, before our time. So really based in like the 80s or whatever, probably the 70s, but it was mainly focused on the 80s, during the AIDS epidemic or whatever the case may be. And it was just kind of just showing us the raw and the real of what a lot of us had to go through with our families. And I'll never forget the scene where Electra, she came into her house and her mom caught her wearing, women clothes. Now, Electra, she identified as a woman, and her mom didn't really. Of course, she didn't approve of it, but she didn't really she didn't understand it. So instead of her trying to get understanding from her daughter, well, yeah, technically her daughter, she was just like over it. So she kicked her out. And a lot of queer people can relate to that scene because people have literally been kicked out of their homes based off of identity. And I used to always be confused because, like, I never forget my friend. He was calling some person his dad. He was saying somebody was his dad or somebody was his sister, but he was saying he never got that from home. So once he moved to Atlanta, he met his father there. He met his. I was genuinely confused about it. But after growing up and doing my research on it, you will see that on Pose. A lot of queer people literally have to make their own families just so they can get that family dynamic within their lives. Why? Okay, another thing I said, what are the reasons why queer people go no contact with their parents? So I put down 4 things. I said being disowned or rejection of identity, repeated disappointment, mental health protection, and the lack of understanding. I feel like the list can go on and on when it comes to this topic, but that's all that I could come up with. Now, I do want to react to 2 videos. It's just like queer people just kind of giving us their experience when it comes to going no contact with their parents and how they're dealing with it and so on and so forth. So
this is a video I really debated making, and I may delete it, but I really want to talk about one of the hardest parts about being gay. I want to post it because I have felt so isolated dealing with this, and I want other people who are going through the same thing to know they are not alone. And to be perfectly honest, I might even want advice from strangers on the internet because I feel so lost about this whole situation. The SparkNotes version is I have family members I was once very close with, but they are very homophobic and I don't talk to them anymore. My whole life, these family members were making comments about gay people. They never were really directed at me, and I'm not going to claim they were ever being directly mean to me, but it was always around, and it didn't really change after I came out. I still dealt with this for a long time. I still saw them. I brought my then boyfriend, now husband, over there, despite feeling so horrible dragging him into that environment, and they acted like he was invisible. And I know to a lot of people it sounds crazy to put up with that behavior, but another part of my life that I don't talk about a ton on here is that I am from rural Appalachia. My family comes from many generations of extreme poverty and lack of access to education. I have great-grandparents who were illiterate, great-grandparents who stopped going to school after elementary school, and all these people grew up in a culture that was incredibly religiously traumatic. When I describe my religion experience from where I'm from, I say we were literally one level away from snake handlers. And if you don't know what those are, it is a group of churches in Appalachia where people literally handle venomous snakes to prove that they are so devout, the snakes won't bite them. All this to say, these family members, along with family members on my other side of the family, worked incredibly hard to break this cycle of cyclical poverty, and I have the life that I do because of the work they put in. In just 2 generations, my life became completely unrecognizable from the lives my grandparents led in the same place. All of my grandparents were first-generation college students and clawed their way out of this systemic poverty. By the time I came through, education was incredibly important. When I told my parents I wasn't comfortable going to church anymore, they listened to me. I was able to go to New York University and leave my tiny mountain town. And I love that tiny mountain town. But it's also hard because I understand why my family members who hold these beliefs act the way they do. And I still owe them so much. So anyway, I continued my relationship with them. We acted like it didn't exist. But I got married last summer, and I made a private decision that if they chose to not come to my wedding, that was it for me. They have always talked about unconditional love, the importance of family, and I was like, well, this is the moment they can put their money where their mouth is and come support me for who I really am and who I really love. That didn't happen, and so I went no contact last summer. I haven't really made peace with that decision. I miss them. I love them. I think sometimes going no contact can seem like an enticing option that can be a quick fix for major problems, but for me, it's not. I wish I could still be in touch with them, but the alternative is more painful. All this to say, one of these relatives is now very sick and their condition is deteriorating very rapidly, and they probably will not be here for much longer. As you can imagine, I have so many really complicated feelings about this, and I don't know what to do. Part of me is like, just talk to them. They're going to be gone anyway, and you might get some more closure. But another part of me logically knows there is no closure. There's not going to be an apology. There's not going to be a mind change. I'm just going to subject myself to being rejected again, and rejected on the basis of something that I cannot control and that I could never control. And sure, I might get to talk to them one more time, but it won't give me any more closure. It's not going to repair that relationship. It's not going to make me have peace with their memory. I don't really have a point here, just that things are really complicated sometimes, and you don't have to know the answer, and I don't know this answer, and I don't know that I will ever know this answer. It will probably forever be a question mark, no matter what I choose. And sometimes you have to learn to live with that being okay too.
Okay, so I've always knew that the whole the no contact thing with your parents was deep, but just after watching that, to the point where somebody could be dying and you still trying to contemplate, like, damn, should I reach out and see how they doing, or should I just stand on business? That's a lot to unpack. This really correlates with a lot of people who just rather just not even come out because their families probably done did so much for them or whatever the case may be, and they just don't want to mess it up. They don't want to mess anything up. They don't want to mess like the relationship they have with their parents. They may not want to mess up the accesses or the opportunities they can get from just having a parent that worked so hard to the point where some people don't have to work. Honestly, like some Gen Zs and Millennials really don't have to work. They can literally just live off their parents because their parents put in so much work for them. Now, when it comes to homophobic people, right? I have plenty of those in my family. I just choose to distance myself and just keep my distance. But with me, I don't really take it personal because honestly, they're never gonna say it to my face. Like they never gonna say it to my they're never gonna say it to my face. So I don't give a damn. Now if they try to approach me on some homophobic type shit to my face, we're gonna have to fight. And it's just no shame. I can understand a person just standing on business and going by their word and not putting up with homophobia because it's very draining being around people that's like that because it's just like I'm still the same person. I just like what I like. Why can't I like what I like and you still treat me the same way? Why you have to treat me like I'm some fucking, I don't know, like meat or some shit? I don't get it. Shout outs to him. I hope he gets the clarity that he deserves. But unfortunately, sometimes even with dealing with people that are like deeply rooted into like religion, a lot of them never going to change. They're always going to feel the way they feel about us. So I mean, it is what it is. But if he feel like it's best for him to keep no contact, then that's what he has to do. But he has to also understand that when you go no contact and people die, oof, I don't know. Me personally, this may sound shallow, but if I no longer have you in my life, in my circle, I already done made my funeral of you in my head. But that's just me though. I know everybody different. Don't beat me up. But that's just me. I have your funeral way before you literally leave this earth. So I'm not gonna say I'll be prepared. I'll be prepared for it. But I don't know. I feel like if you ever disrespected me to the point where I can't take it anymore, and you've done it numerous of times, and you're not even trying to be there for me like I've been there for you, baby, it's just time to wrap it up. And I already had your funeral in my head, but no shade. That's just me though. I know everybody different.
I want no contact with my mom, and then 2 years later she died. People have asked me like, "Oh, so
This reminds me of my connection with my dad. I went no contact with him like 5 years ago. I had been considering doing it way sooner than that. Um, but every time I would like speak to my mama about it, she'd be like, "Well, what if he dies? Like, what if he passes away? You're gonna regret it." She would always say that to me, and part of me would just be like, "Okay, well, you know." But then the other part of me was like, maybe I should be compassionate. But being compassionate is how I ended up finding out on my 21st birthday that he told my mom I was an abomination and that I was mutilating myself and ruining my life. And after I found that out, I chose just to never speak to him again. And it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, to be honest. And so I was thinking about that, and I've been thinking about just some people that I've kind of allowed to be in my life for way too long, under the guise of like, oh, try to put yourself in their shoes, you know, try to better understand them. And that probably has a little bit to do with like the whole experience that I have with my dad, and just like generally how much I think it's important to give people the opportunity to show you that they can be better. But when is that, when you draw the line, you know? That's a question I ask myself a lot. Because it's like in the same vein of people being like, oh, well, what if they die? What if they pass away? It's like, well, what if I pass away? You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm always wondering to myself, like, when do you stop putting in the work? Because these people, they're going to continue to treat you however they treat you, and they're not going to care about that, you know? But you got to care enough and want yourself enough, or love yourself enough, you know, to make the best decision within your best interest, the healthiest decisions for you, you know?
How they said it, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Like, I mean, okay, and if I would have died, then what? Like, the person wasn't going to change anyway. So, not saying I don't care. It's unfortunate, but I mean, nothing would have really changed. That's why I say everybody cannot be parents, because you mean to tell me you have somebody out there, you know, that come from you, and being that they like what they like, you just have to disown them and you don't want anything to do with them and their abomination. Like, that's crazy. And sometimes you can't come back from saying shit like that. So, I mean, just listening to what the person said, like, I mean, it makes sense. But like I said, I'm the same way too. Like, if I have no well, I don't think I really, I'm in a situation where I have people like on my no contact list. But if you are no longer in my life again and we like cut each other off, girl, when once I cut you off, I already had your funeral. Like, we don't talk no more. Okay, so before I react to this video, I don't know if he is queer, but no shade. I'm going off of his appearance in the voice, and I went to his page and it just gave gay. But I could be wrong. But anyway, he made a really good point, and I just kind of wanted to share with this video with you guys.
I'm so envious of people who are able to have like great relationships with their parents, almost like their best friends. It's not even in like a jealous way. It's more so like I wish I had that. I know I could make that happen, but I just can't. And I thought as I was getting older that, you know, they would be able to understand my thoughts and feelings more and understand that if I'm saying something is wrong or something needs to change on their part, they still don't get it. I fully believe in like, you know, holding on to your parents tight. Like anyone who's older, your parents are usually like double, triple your age when you're in your 20s. So it's like you want to hold on to them tight. You want to keep a good relationship with them because you never know what could happen to them. And they never know what could happen to us. Like we never know what could happen to us. So you never know when that relationship could end. But at the same damn time, I fully believe in protecting my own energy and ensuring that I don't have people in my life who are constantly trying to drain me or constantly trying to grind my gears. But when it's your parent, it makes it so difficult. I've never had that type of relationship with my parents where we like hug, kiss, say I love you all the time. Never had that anyway. But as I was getting older, I'm like, damn, I kind of want that. It's like, damn, why can't I have that relationship with mine? And in trying to figure that out and talking to a therapist, whatever it may be, I just realized that some people aren't going to change, and there's never going to understand that what you're saying may be true, no matter how old you get, no matter how long or how many times you tell them, they're not going to get that something they're doing is bothering you or is wrong. That can apply to any relationship. And when it gets to that point,
it just feels necessary to distance yourself. And I hate that, because who wants to distance themselves from someone or people that they love? But it's like, at the same time, I have to protect myself. But I mean, I know I can't be the only one who has like this type of strained relationship with my parent. It feels almost unnatural, because I have so many friends who have great relationships with their parents, talk on the phone with them all the time, yada, yada, yada. I've just never had that. And it sucks, but I just know I'm not the only one.
This is why I feel like childhood trauma is going to always follow some people. Because it all starts from a child. A child, as a child, you're not gonna remember everything, but when it comes to love, when it comes to being embraced, when it comes to your family love or your parents or whatever, like nurturing you and embracing you, you're never gonna forget those aspects, and that's gonna always follow. But when a person get older and they realize they never really had that love from their parents, compared to their friends or just people they see on the internet, it just have them really like, feeling low, and they have to resort to therapy. Some people can't even really afford to go to therapy. But me personally, I do feel like therapy helps. It does. I'm not saying it don't, because I've been to therapy and it helps me out. It helped me out tremendously. But I feel like it's no therapy in the world versus love from your parents, love from people who are your family, you may be in a position where you're numb to it or you're able to move on with your life with it, but you're gonna always deal with those moments where you just sitting to yourself and just thinking like, damn, like I wish my mom was here for this, or I wish my dad was here for this, or stuff like that. But again, like you said, it's nothing like having your own peace of mind and just being away from the bullshit. So hey, I commend y'all, whoever's out there that have very valid reasons to why they're going to contact with family, parents, so on and so forth. But yeah, that about wraps up this video. To my supporter that reached out to me, I hope this video, answers some of your questions, because I was trying to implement your paragraph by just trying to touch bases on what I should talk about within this video. So I hope you like it. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.